Hello friends, welcome to my another video. Let's recapitalize as to what we did in my last video. In my last video, I discussed things related with job analysis. As we all know that job analysis is nothing but it's just the deciding about the contents of a job or detailing about a job in an organization. So once we have job analysis, we discuss about two things. It's all about job description and job specification. So once we have job description, we know that actually we discuss about duties, responsibilities, accountabilities, or anything which is related with the tools, machinery, relationships, so on and so forth. Whereas in the case of a job specification, we discuss something related with the minimum criteria that the person should have to qualify for a particular job. It can be in terms of education, it can be in terms of professional education, it can be in form of physical attributes, in form of emotional attributes, in form of the creativity, innovation, team building, collaboration, interpersonal skills, communication skills, so on and so forth. I'm sure about the objectives of job analysis also, we had a great discussion. Because job analysis is one of the most important tasks which is performed by the HR managers, and HR managers, they are known as the architects of the entire company. So anyone, if he or she plans to be a part of the company, the job analysis part has to be well completed. Then we also discuss something related with the data collection, how the data has to be collected, who are the people who are going to collect the data, and what kind of data or information has to be collected. And once the data or information has been collected, it gets compiled in the form of job description and job specification. Now today what I am going to talk about is, I am going to talk about the proforma of job analysis. Till now, in my past two videos, I have been talking about job analysis. In my first video, I gave you the gist, what is the meaning of job analysis, what are the objectives of job analysis, how the data is collected, who are the people who are going to collect the data, and the process of job analysis. In my last video, I discussed things going deep into the job analysis part, that is the job description and the job specification. For example, one should know that if a person is coming to the organization, what kind of work or duties and the responsibilities one has to shoulder. For example, whether the one has to work in the morning shift, evening shift, night shift, one has to stand and perform, one has to lie down and perform, one has to work in which kind of environment, which are the risk factors the person will be exposed to, what are the hazards that one has to be exposed to. Sometimes people have to work under sun, sometimes people have to work in AC, sometimes people have to work in fumes, sometimes people have to work on moisture condition. One has to be very sure under what kind of hazardous environment one has to work, so that the safety can be taken care of the employees. Now, when we talk about the proforma, it basically gives you the gist. Till now, we have theoretically understood what is the meaning of job analysis, or what are the contents of job analysis, or what are the components of job analysis. That is only two. One is job description and job specification. So, let's have a look at the proformas of job analysis. What I thought that apart from giving you a knowledge, theoretical knowledge, let me give you some practical knowledge also of job analysis, because once anything which is mentioned in the practical form, it becomes much more easy for people to identify. So as you can see on the screen, a proforma of job analysis, it is of HR administration of corporate office. Here again, what is more important is that in case if we are preparing the job analysis for any job profile, definitely the name of the employee will be there. Mr. X will be performing the task, in which department the person will be recruited, maybe HR. I have given the example of the HR, but it can be any other department, because job vacancies requirement can come from any department. It can be from IT, it can be from production, marketing, packaging department, advertisement, anywhere. So if a person is working as a PRO also, then the department will be different. If the person is working as a ZBM, then the department will be different. For example, in a telecom company, there can be different job profiles of the person. A person can work in prepaid, a person can work in postpaid, a person can work in the DTH, so on and so forth. So if a job analysis is being prepared, for them the job analysis would be quite different. And as I have been continuously telling you, that job analysis is the process of collection of information. But what is more important is that job analysis is not related with the person, it is only related with the job. My dear friends, don't ever get confused between job analysis and performance appraisal. I will be talking about the difference also later on, but let me clear that stance right here. Job analysis is only related with the job, but not with the person. But once we talk about the performance appraisal, there we talk about the person's performance and not the job. So here we are not talking about the person. That person is invisible. Anybody who will be there, the person has to perform that kind of task. So the example that I am giving you, the Proforma that I am sharing with you, it is of the HR office. And as you can see on the screen, that the first title, it talks about the name of the employee. So anybody, Mr. X, Mr. Y, he or she, anybody, whosoever will be, the person will be working in the department of HR. Maybe for the example, if anyone is there for marketing management, then the department will be marketing. Anyone who is working as a finance officer, then his department will be finance. So it will differ, it will depend upon the kind of department that you are going to work for. As you can see on the screen also, again this Proforma has been taken from my own book, HRM by Dr. Rakhi Gupta. As you can see, the name of the organization ABC, there are different job codes. Now job codes actually help us to identify different job categories or job grades. They can be grade 1, grade 2, at times they can be level 1, level 2, level 3, PB1, PB2, PB3. So every job is a different job. So once we have that job analysis, we can actually make that grade also. That's what I discussed in my previous video. So it helps in making of the grades also and the categories. And once the grades and the categories have been made, our compensation part becomes quite easy, because we can actually decide on the pay scales that one has to be offered if a person is in a particular job grade. So here you can see the job code is HR009. If a person is going to be recruited, he will be for location Chennai, designation HR administration corporate office. The person will be a kind of an HR executive or maybe HR officer. Then who will he will be reporting? HR manager Chennai. My dear friends, if you remember, when in my last lecture I told you that what are the aspects of job description. These are the aspects. For example, the duties and the responsibilities, accountability, machine, tools, supervision, materials used, relationships. So as you can see on the screen also, here it is mentioned that in case if you are recruited for a job, who will be your reporting manager? That means a person who is going to be recruited, he is not the boss himself. He will be reporting to someone else also. Then working hours 9 AM to 6 PM. So this gives more clarity. Okay, if a person is coming in the HR office, the person has to serve for 9 hours. Then what are the role objectives? Now this is the duty part that we talk about, because continuously I have been talking about that job analysis has got two parts, job description and job specification, and job description basically talks about the duties and the responsibilities. So on the screen also, if you can see, the objectives are mentioned that okay, if any person is recruited for the HR department of any category, location Chennai, and reporting manager will be who will be based out of Chennai only, working hours 9 to 6. What will be his task? So let's have a look at that. Execute all administration related work for the smooth functioning of the organization. Ensure communication of all kind of official matters to employees on time. Ensure customer delight, internal as well as external, and maintain proper records. So you can see that job analysis very clearly defines the goals, or there is a clarity of work which one has to perform. So there cannot be any kind of blame game that okay, I did not know that I was supposed to do that, because it was very clear right from the beginning that in case if Mr. X is coming for a particular company and doing a task, these are the tasks that the person is supposed to perform. For example, if we are talking about HR, so we know that okay, the person has to maintain the records, maintain the communication part, do all kind of administrative tasks. So at any point of time, if any administration work pops up, so the person cannot deny that this is not my part of job. That is your part of your job, because it has been mentioned in the job analysis. Then now this talks about the skill set. So, the moment we start talking about the skill set, it is all related with job specification. Let me reiterate for the ones who are listening the video for the first time. Job specification is nothing but it's just the minimum criteria that one has to fulfill to complete the task. So, it is not only necessary that it has to be in terms of education or professional education, but there are other parameters also. For example, if you have seen the vacancy of a marketing manager, for example. So, in that vacancy they write, okay, the person should have a minimum experience of 5 years, the person should have a vehicle, the person should have good communication skill, the person is willing to travel, and the person should have some experience related with the relevant industry. So, these 5 categories are the skills that are required, or skills will be the communication skill, listening part, and the requirement would be that, okay, the person should have a two-wheeler and a minimum experience of 5 years. So, this requirement part is nothing but it's just the job specification. As you can see on the screen also, the skill set required, since we are talking about the HR executive, anyone who is joining the HR department of any company, then the working hours will be from 9 to 6, the location will be Chennai, he or she will be reporting to his boss in Chennai, the name of the employee is there, the job code is there, right. So, here the skill set requirement is that the person should be between 23 to 32 years, the gender can be anything, male and female, experience, fresher or experienced, knowledge, Microsoft Office, especially working on Excel, language expert, English, Tamil and Hindi. Skills, documentation, interpersonal skills, communication, attitude, committed, loyal, ethical, hardworking. Competencies required are team player, communication, interpersonal relationship, customer focus, documentation, coordination, time management. So, we can see there are number of requirements right from the age limit, right from the gender. Now, gender is, it will fall under the demographic. Then it talks about the attitude, it talks about the competencies. So, if you remember in my previous video, I discussed things related with the emotional attribute or attitude. So, these are the emotional attribute, okay, that the person should be able to work in a team. There should be some kind of time management, there should be some kind of good communication skill, or maybe interpersonal relationship is of high level. Anyone who is coming as an HR executive, the person should be highly committed, very loyal, ethical and hardworking, because the working hours are from 9 to 6 and there are number of tasks that has to be performed by the person. So, it is just not the professional qualification. As far as the experience is concerned, as you can see on the screen also, it says that anybody can apply for the HR job. Any fresher also and experience also. If a fresher is applying for the job, that means, okay, that means the management at the back of the mind, they know that the person has to be given some kind of training. And if any experienced person is coming into our organization, then naturally less of training would be required. As far as the knowledge is concerned, the language expert, the person should be good with the English, Tamil and Hindi. So, they have specifically told about Tamil because they are talking about the Chennai location. So, the vernacular language is more important for the person who is joining. So, anybody who is joining from North India for the Chennai job and anybody who is joining from Chennai for the Chennai job, then the person joining from Chennai will be preferred. Then again, look here, this is again the job analysis form, right. So, it talks about the company, about the division and section. For example, there can be a big company, there can be number of sections or divisions. So, one has to be very clear for which section the person has been recruited, and that will fall under which department, which location, because for one particular job profile there can be number of locations. So, one has to be very clear for which location I am being recruited or the person will be located. For example, the person can be located for Lucknow office, the person can be located for Gujarat office, the person can be located for Mumbai, so on and so forth. Then the job title, this is of the paramount importance, because anyone who will be coming and doing the specific task, they should know about the job title. For example, in a university, when people they are recruited, so they know that they will be recruited in the faculty department. So they can be different job profiles. For example, it can be assistant professor, it can be associate professor, it can be professor grade. So the person should know what job title the person will be carrying, and this job title will be the identity of the person in front of the outside world. Then job organization code, the division and supervised. So these are the things, if you remember when we were discussing about the job description also. So we talk about the job summary. So this is the first 2 or 4 lines which you can see in bold letters. It talks about the job summary, the name of the company, the division, the department, the location, the title or the code, division and by whom you will be supervised. Then it talks about the purpose and scope, briefly describe the overall goal and purpose of the job. This statement should be in general summary of the responsibilities of the job. For example, if we are talking in terms of HR, so in the previous slide, if you remember, it was related that okay, the person has to do all the kind of administrative tasks, the person has to communicate, the documentation part has to be done and the reports and all, everything has to be maintained. Then duties and responsibilities, here how, why, where and what. All these 4 questions, they have to be specifically answered. So for example, it talks about the frequency, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. So in the last slide, if we know that okay, the documentation has to be done or the reports have to be maintained. So the person should be very much clear that the reports, if they are being maintained, so whether those reports have to be maintained weekly, fortnightly or monthly or quarterly or 6 monthly. So that has to be specifically mentioned in the job analysis form. Then complexity and difficulty, it describes the most complex or the difficult aspect of the job influenced by such elements as competitive conditions, legal or contractual requirements and professional practices. What is the extent of analysis, planning and creative thinking required to resolve these situations? So anybody who is working or coming for a specific task, for example, if we've been talking about HR. So if any HR executive or HR personnel or HR manager is being recruited for a company. So in our previous slides also we had discussed something related with labor laws, if you remember. So labor laws or the social security laws, they have to be well and very timely implemented. So if the laws and these laws, labor laws, they are properly implemented, then there would be no dispute and people will be happy and satisfied. And when people are happy and satisfied, they are ready to give you TRS, trust, respect and support. So, and all these trust and respect and support, it will definitely result in the loyalty and the commitment level of the people. So, here the complexity, if a person is coming, here specifically it has to be mentioned that okay, the person coming, they should have perfect knowledge about the labor laws and they will be responsible to implement those provisions effectively. Then the work contracts, it indicates the level, frequency and the nature of work contacts, personal contacted, immediate associate, other division, government officials, public, contractors, others, frequency. For example, if a person is coming as an HR executive or HR official or HR personnel or HR manager, then the licensing part is very important. So licensing is also one of the functions which is being performed by the HR people. So it says that in case if people are coming, so what is the frequency that they have to deal with people or they have to contact with people? These people, they can be the departmental heads, they can be division heads, they can be different other departmental heads, or maybe they have to go down and meet the government officials, the contractors, the public, so on and so forth. Then another important part is related with the independence of operation. Now it says that in the case of independence of operation, we have to be very clear that what kind of assignments are being given to people. So if people, they know the assignment, they can actually plan their things. And if you remember, one of the good qualities of HR manager is flexibility. They should not be rigid. There should be some element of flexibility in the HR managers. So if there is flexibility in the HR managers, so definitely people can work very easily. So this point actually talks about that only, that in the people, they should be very clear what type of assignments are being handled or what type of assignments they have to handle, what kind of instructions they have to follow, what are the standard instructions they have to follow. They have to work according to the procedures and clerical standards. work accordingly to established standard procedures according to the specialized clerical or technical standards. Now, my dear friends, if you have ever visited any of the factory or any of the organization or any of the manufacturing unit, you might have seen the precautions are always mentioned. Do not speed up more than 100, or do not increase the temperature latest by 5 degree, so on and so forth. So, these instructions are given. So, these are the procedures which are given, these are the guidelines which are given, these are the policies which are given. So, adherence to these policies is very important, and flexibility part can come in the part of execution. Then, extent of check and supervision. Now, we know that in the case of job analysis, supervision is one of the most important aspect which we discussed earlier also. That is one of the aspect, that whether you are being supervised or you yourself will be the boss. If your work is being supervised, that means there would be somebody who is taking note of your work. So, it says that the work is regularly checked and closely supervised. Completed work is checked by supervisor. Work is reviewed upon completion of short assignments. Supervisor keeps advice of work progress and spot checks of the completed work. So, these are the specifications, or these are the intricacies of the work that one has to follow. So, if Mr. X is coming in an organization for a particular task, he knows that okay, I have a supervisor, he can give me assignments, he can check my assignments at any point of time, and he can ask me any report or any detail about the task which has been assigned to me. Then, supervisor keeps advice of the work progress, spot checks, assignments are given, consults with supervisor on main issues relating to the principles and policies, then refers to supervisor only major problems such as those pertaining to the complex administrative matters, manpower or material. We know that people, when they start working in a company, there can be number of bottlenecks. Bottlenecks, they are basically the hindrances. So, there are certain problems that can be sorted at their own level, but if the problems they are not able to sort out at their own level, only then they will be going to their supervisors. So, as an employee, they should be well aware what are the problems that they can handle themselves, and which are the problems, if they crop up, they are the purview of their work profile. So, we talk about the supervisors. So, anyone who is coming to perform a particular task, they know that what kind of work they can do, what kind of problems they can handle themselves, and what are the problems which they have to refer it to their supervisors. Then, here again on the screen you can say, or you can see the consequences of action or decisions. It describes the most important decision and judgment required in the duties of the job, indicate if they are self-made, shared, or normally recommended to higher authorities for approval. How do the decision in one impact on the following: increasing the revenue, controlling, improving, broadening, protecting, conserving, or increasing the company's asset. Now, if anyone is working for a particular job, they should know about the flexibility that they have. They should know what kind of decisions they can take on their own without referring to others. And if they are taking any kind of decisions, what impact it is going to have on the various aspects. As you can see, the impact of decision on the, maybe on the company's revenue, on the cost, on the quality, on the services, so on and so forth. So, one has to work within that periphery of policies and the guidelines. Nobody can go outside that. So, one has to have perfect knowledge about that also, that to what level I have the autonomy or the freedom to take up the decisions. Then the supervision. For example, in the case of this job analysis form, it indicates the supervisory responsibility of the job in terms of number and grades of employees supervised, including those supervised through subordinates level. Now, there are two options. Either you will be supervising somebody's task, or you yourself is a supervisor. So, if one is a supervisor, him or herself, then the person should know how many people are going to work under me, what level of work they will be doing, what kind of job they will be handling. If you remember, we had talked about the job grades or the job codes. So, every job grade and job code has its own set of responsibilities to be handled. So if you are a supervisor, you should know that, okay, I will be handling 50 people, I will be handling 30 people, 30 people, maybe 20 of this level, 10 of this level, and they will be performing different tasks. For on the other hand side, if you are one of them, then you should know I am going to work under whom, how many people will be working with me, who will be my colleagues, what level they will be from, what kind of job grades they will be having, or job codes. So all those things they should be very much crystal clear in the minds of the worker or the employee. Then if no supervision is involved but incumbent to provide work direction and controls the work of other employees, including the contractor personnel, information should be provided as under. For example, employees supervised, number, grades, work direction and control. So anyone who is a contractor, and in case if you are not supervising, so you should know, if I am supervising a contractor, how many contractors will be working under me, and maybe under the contractors there may be 100 people working or maybe 200 people working, and what kind of work they are doing or what kind of nature of work they are actually doing. So even in the case of grades also, one should be very clear which level of people I am going to supervise. Now this is something very simple. They can be class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4 officers. So the class 1 is the topmost. So the class 1 officers, they may be controlling class 2, 3 and 4, but it cannot be the vice versa. So one has to be very clear what level of grade of people they will be supervising, or if you are amongst the ones from 2 and 3 and 4, then you know that my work will be supervised by the class 1 officer. Then number 8, it talks about the physical effort. We just discussed in the job description also, it talks about the physical effort, the gravity, the strength. For example, you have to stand and do the work, if you have to lie down and do the work. For example, I gave you the example of a cleaner. If there is a vacancy of cleaner, so cleaner can do the job of sweeping and mopping the floor, but the job is that, okay, you have to hang outside the building and you have to clean the glass. Then that is a different story. So there the physical effort which is exerted is entirely different from the one which will be inserted inside the office building. So we have to indicate the kind of physical effort or the duration of physical effort. For example, if anyone is coming, so they know that, okay, for they will be this percentage of work time they will be working, this percentage of time they will be sitting and they will be doing their time work, or maybe the climbing part or the lifting part or the pushing part. Number B, it talks about the tools, equipment and the machinery used. So here they know what kind of machinery and tools and equipment they will be working on. If you remember, we discussed that one should be very clear that whether the person has to work on heavy machinery or light machinery. So if a person is working on heavy machinery, that means there are more risk factors, there is more hazardous situation that one has to work under. So definitely the protection has to be accordingly done. But if anyone is working in a very light machinery or tools or equipments, then they should know that how much percentage of work has to be done on light machinery, heavy machinery, or which kind of equipments, sharp equipments, less sharp equipments, depends upon the kind of industry one is working for. Then if you see number 8, it is also written where applicable, explain the action in relation to what it is being performed. As I have been giving the example of a I have been giving you the example of a cleaner. So one can actually mention if a particular person is being recruited as a cleaner, then this percentage of time he will be climbing the building and cleaning, and the rest of the time he will be doing the task inside. And then in case if you can see, it talks about the example of tools used. I will reiterate again that it all depends upon the tools and machinery that one is exposed to, whether the heavy machinery, heavy tools, or less heavy machinery, less tools, that it all depends upon the kind of work that person is actually doing. So anyone who is doing any kind of work, they should know what are the factors to be considered while they do the task, because some of them they may involve high risk factors and some of them they may involve less risk factors. So this is very essential. Lastly, if you can see number 9, it relates with the work environment. Now work environment basically talks about the working condition. So they may be, for example, we had just discussed that one should know that whether they have to work in the morning shift. For example, if you are talking about HR also, so naturally they can be different shift from 9 to 6, maybe the another shift is from maybe maybe 10 to 7. So, the one has to be very clear that what kind of shift their person is supposed to work, what will be the working hours, whether they have to work in the morning, afternoon, night, whatever. For example, construction industry. So, in construction industry, the work goes on at night also. So, there people have to work at night also. So, in the job analysis form, it has to be mentioned that, okay, maybe 15 days morning shift, maybe 15 days evening shift or night shift. Then we have to talk about the work condition. The work condition is again the environment, whether the person has to work in AC, whether the person has to work in fumes, whether the person has to work in the acid area, maybe less ventilated, maybe outside, so on and so forth. So, that applicability will only be decided by the people only, or the kind of work that one is exposed to. Then here we can see again number A is environment, number B is the degree of exposure and period of exposure. Now, if anyone is working, for example, this is the work environment, as I told you in the case of job description also, that one should be well aware about the risk associated with the jobs, and it could be related with your physical measure also, maybe eyesight, maybe moisture, heat, humidity, acidity, dust, noise, sound. If one has to continuously work in dust and noisy situation, then the occupational diseases, they can very well contact with occupational diseases. So, it has to be very clear in the mind of the people that what kind of environment they will be exposed to. For example, slight, moderate, intensive. So, if the job requirement is such that the person has to work in fumes all the time, then it will be intensive. If it is noise, well, then it can be moderate or slight. If it is heat, it can be slight, moderate, intensive, or the cleaning part or pleasant environment. For example, if you are a store manager of any departmental store, there the cleanliness is of high quality, they are very, very clear, then the environment will be intensively clean. But supposing if you have to work in a warehouse or maybe any other garage, then the pleasant part or the environment will not be that clean and nice as it is in other places. So, actually it can be expressed in the form of percentages also. Then number 10, it talks about the minimum academic, commercial and technical professional qualification. For example, I have been giving you the example of an advocate or a doctor or a teacher. So, academically they will be well qualified, or the person should be well qualified. Technical knowledge, commercial knowledge, anybody who is an editor in a maybe TV studio, then the person should have perfect technical knowledge, or maybe the commercial knowledge or the professional qualification. Maybe the person, maybe if a person is a interior decorator, then the person should have done some kind of professional qualification, some kind of fashion designing courses, and of course, the kind of knowledge that the person should have in regard to the languages, the vernacular language. If you remember, one of the first Proforma which I showed you, it was all related with the HR. So, in the case of HR, it was that one of the vernacular languages that needed was Tamil. So, it is always mentioned that Tamil is one of the languages. Then, in the case of education, all of the literacy or number of years of experience or school or industry or university, everything has to be mentioned, you know. So, anybody can say, okay, for a particular job, a conventee is needed, for a particular job, a undergraduate student from any university can work, all those things have to be mentioned. Then in number B, technical trade, commercial training, how many years of training one has, or secondary level training or primary level training, or maybe the professional organization or professional qualification. Maybe the person should be an MBA, the person should be an MBBS, the person should be LLM or a doctorate, so on and so forth. So, it talks about the in terms of language also, there may be people who may be good at speaking, there may be people who can understand but they cannot speak, there may be people who can understand, speak and write. So, all those criteria has to be fulfilled and it has to be explicitly mentioned. Lastly, if you can see experience, it indicates the minimum experience required with specified educational background to acquire practical knowledge to perform the whole job. For example, if I am looking forward for the vice president in the production department, then it can be the minimum experience that the person should have, maybe 15 years of experience, and the person should have worked with the garment industry. That can be one of the requirement. So, these are all the job specification. This is all the part of the job specification. Then the minimum number of job familiarization, that means the person should be familiar with the industry, the job that they have to do, or the minimum number of years and months, everything has to be mentioned. And lastly, it talks about the information obtained by, from the job title or the date, and the compiled by and the date. So, this proforma, it can be viewed from 2 points. One is that, okay, this is the source of information collection. We are collecting information for the decision purpose, and all these 12 points have included both the job description and the job specification part. So, this can be a kind of a collection tool also, and it can be a kind of a job analysis form, that okay, Mr. X is coming for a particular job, what all things have to be mentioned in a job analysis form. So, my dear friends, this is the time to end the lecture. So, that's all we have from this presentation on job analysis. I am sure by this time you are well equipped with the concept of job analysis. In a nutshell, job analysis is nothing but again a two-part: job description and job specification. Job specification deals with the duties and responsibilities that one has to shoulder, whereas the job specification is nothing but the minimum criteria that has to be fulfilled by a person to be eligible for a particular job. And in both the cases, from the company point of view, it is very, very essential that they have to collect correct information, accurate information, up-to-date information, so that the correct job analysis form can be prepared. And once the job analysis form has been prepared, it gives clarity to the employee also, and it gives clarity to the company also. So, I wish you all the best, that you can search more job analysis form performers like these and get a better understanding. Thank you so much.